What's up, y'all? This is Carolina Doc PT, and today we're going to be talking about how I actually passed my licensing exam, which it was a darn miracle, literally. So that's what we're going to give you the background and the setup for this, and you're going to want to listen all the way to the end, because I'll tell you, the friends and family that I've told this story to, they really get goosebumps, because it really was miraculous. So I graduated with my doctorate in physical therapy from University of South Carolina. That was in December of 2011. It's hard to believe it was that long ago. At that time, the APTA had decided to change how they were doing the licensing exam. Prior to that, you could go and take that exam pretty much any weekend that you wanted to do so. And my class, we were the first ones who were told that, okay, after our graduation, there would be 5 weekends in the coming year that we would be able to go and sit for the licensing exam. So that was, I think, the first go around that we had was going to be the first exam time was going to be in January, or the end of January. I think it was January the 30th. And then the next time after that was going to be in April, and then there was going to be another test. I think it was going to be done in July, and then there were going to be like 2 more later in the year. So everyone, of course, in my class, we were all focused on that January the 30th, or that first offering of the exam, because you wanted to get going into your career and into the career of physical therapy. So that was what I was planning on. That was what I had my sights on. Now, I did wind up doing something that took a little bit of my focus away, which was I went ahead and started working. I would highly recommend, if you are just graduating and you are going out if you're a physical therapist who has just graduated or is planning to graduate and then take your licensing exam, and you have a delay in time, for us, that was going to be approximately, I guess, the classes really finished the end of November, and so we basically had about 2 months to study and prepare. I would highly recommend you take those 2 months and do not start working in a job. So I was offered a position, and they wanted me to start working immediately, which at the time I thought, okay, well, that's fine. Like, my wife, she had actually stopped her job, anticipating that my job was going to be starting very soon. We were kind of living off of the remainder of our student loans. We had our daughter, was really a newborn. She was a few months old at that time. And so we thought, okay, let's go ahead and let me go ahead and start working. That was not good for several reasons, and I'm probably going to make a whole video about that. I'm not going to sidetrack this one with that information, but I'll just say it was very difficult to start working and study at the same time. It just wasn't smart. I shouldn't have done it, but nevertheless, that's what happened. So was kind of studying, kind of halfway. I was actually doing it, but just wasn't studying to the level that I really needed to be doing, because I was working. So that takes us in through December. Well, come into January, and my father-in-law, he's passed away now, but at the time, he was scheduled for a back surgery, and this was in early January. I can't remember the exact date, but my wife's mother, she passed away several years ago, and my brother-in-law, he and his family were living at the time out in Indiana. And so really my father-in-law really didn't have anyone else that he could turn to help him out. So of course, my wife and I and our daughter, we went up and stayed up in Virginia, and that's what we were planning to go up to Virginia during this time, because with this back surgery, he was going to need somebody to stay with him for a bit. So I thought, okay, that's fine. I will. In my job, we had already planned that I was going to take off several weeks in January because of obviously needing to pass my licensing exam and needing to focus in and study on it in those final few weeks leading up to it. Well, my father-in-law's surgery wound up being in the beginning of January. And so we went up there, and the thought process was, okay, my wife is going to do most of kind of going over, to stay with my father-in-law. Like, I'll study. We were actually staying with some friends, so they were going to take care of our daughter. And then if I needed to give my wife, some relief, I would actually go over to the hospital and stay with her dad, and I would study some while I was there and stuff. Well, we thought, okay, this will be just a few days and no worries. Well, that's not at all what happened. Of course, the surgery wound up being a bit more difficult for him to recover from. There wound up being issues with, I believe he wound up getting MRSA. There were just several difficulties. There were several things that were happening. I was able to study some, but it just was completely not sufficient. My focus was lost because we had all this other stuff and all these other concerns, because there was some concern, would he even, make it through the surgery at the time, because there was some ICU confusion and some issues coming out of the surgery and all this. So he wound up making it out of that surgery and recovering, and we wound up having him go into rehab, and he wound up doing okay with that. But my studying for the exam during that time just didn't go great. There were times where I was able to go over and I got a couple of full days, but I just wasn't able to get the studying in like I was planning to. So this goes into about at that point when we were driving home from Virginia, that I remember talking to my wife about this, and we were at that point, I think we were 2 weeks out or 1 week out. I was 1 week out from the surgery. And I remember telling my wife that I felt like I needed 2 more weeks. I felt like I had missed about 2 weeks with everything that was kind of going on, with not just having worked like right out of my graduation, but then also just everything related to going to Virginia and everything. It just, my focus was lost, and I was I just kept saying, man, I feel like I need 2 more weeks. Like, if I had 2 more weeks, I feel like I'd be pretty good on this. So anyway, so now we go into the week before the exam. So the exam was supposed to be on I believe it was a Monday. It was supposed to be on a Monday morning. And my exam was supposed to be in Atlanta. I had scheduled and signed up for it back in December. You signed up for wherever you were going, and they were offered at certain venues all around the country. You couldn't just show up to any testing site that like you were previously able to, the way that they were doing the exam before. So my site was going to be in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was going to be that Monday morning of the week before. Like, we had just come back, I remember, that the weekend before. So I had a full week of studying. I did go hardcore into studying at that point. Like that, I was at the library every day, going all the way through. And I remember coming up into Friday and taking like thinking like, okay, I had reviewed a lot. I hadn't reviewed everything, but I'd reviewed a lot, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna take a practice test and see how I do. And I did horrible. Oh my goodness, I did so bad on that practice test. And I remember packing up and going home, and that Friday night, I remember almost shaking. Like I was was afraid. I was really fearful, because let me add a little bit more to this story. So I had started working, as I said, in the end of November and working in December. Well, so in my background, so I used to be in management in a different field. I was in sales for a bit in a different field, and my real goal was I really wanted to go into management as quickly as I could when I graduated with my doctorate. But typically you've got to work for a little bit, and most companies are not going to hire a brand new grad right into a clinic manager position. Well, there was a company out where we lived that was actually run by an occupational therapist, and this company was looking for a director of physical therapy. So in December, I had actually thought, you know what, I'm going to send my resume there and I'm going to apply for this, and just to see, even though I had already started a job, that was as a staff PT. I had already started it. That was already the plan for me to work in this position. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to send my resume just because I doubt if they're even going to pay attention to it. I doubt if they're going to let me even interview for this job. But they did. And so I went and had the interview and was actually offered the position. So to add into this, they were very well interested in me coming in and me stepping right into a management position. They thought that was just fine because of my previous experience, you know, that combined with having my doctorate and then passing my licensing exam. Hey, that's great. I could hit the ground running with them. So I wound up having to resign from this PT position that I had already started in. And when I say I'd already started, yes, I was actually seeing patients. You are not supposed to be doing that, but I wasn't fully aware. I was really supposed to be, I thought, and primarily I was going to be working as like a tech in there. That was really what I was planning to do. But the person who was actually managing that clinic was way overusing me in my role, which is also something I will probably make another video about. I was being used, and it was really to my own detriment. It was also to my own risk. So yes, this PT was co-signing my notes, but I was I didn't, at the end of the day, when I look back, I was the one at significant risk. I was like, it was putting me at risk, and it was really just to benefit this particular manager. And it was very selfish on their part and stupid on my part, and stupid on their part too, because they should have known better, and shouldn't have put a new grad PT into the position that I was put in. But that's a whole nother story and a whole nother subject. I say all that to say, so I had a lot of stuff going on at the same time as I was supposed to be just focused on passing this licensing exam, because in the state of South Carolina, you can take that licensing exam 3 times. You have to pass it in order to be able to practice. Doesn't matter that you graduate with your doctorate. That's great. You've gone for 3.5 years. You've studied your tail off. You worked really hard. But if you don't have that license, it don't matter. You're not going to be able to work as a physical therapist in the state. And in South Carolina, you can take that test 3 times in your lifetime. So I know for myself, I was like, okay, well, I've absolutely got to pass this thing the first go around, because if I don't pass it on the first time, then I'm going to be so freaked out about it. I'm definitely not going to pass it on the second. And then by the time I go to the third, that's just going to be a mess, because the stress of that, and having a family, a young family, and us having no other finances, and us, then no, there's no way I'll pass this. So I knew I had to pass it the first go around. So that makes that first end of January time frame for pass, or time for taking that test, so critical and so important. So not only had I resigned from a job that I started, I also had interviewed for and gotten a management position, which I really wanted to start off in. Add in the concern that we were having of my father-in-law and him, the surgery, and then him almost having passed away, or what we thought. He probably wasn't totally life-threatening, but we weren't sure at the time. Add into that, our student loan money was running out, and so we really financially needed the income from this management position, and so it was really critical that I get into that position as quickly and as soon as I could, which is kind of what the planning was for. And so there were a lot of factors at play, and there was a lot of stress involved around this, passing this exam. So come up to that Friday and not passing that practice test, and I was afraid. I was shaking. I remember telling my wife, I don't feel like I'm going to pass this. This is on the Friday before the Monday when I'm supposed to be taking the exam. Sunday, I'm supposed to be driving to Atlanta to take this exam on Monday morning. And I just, golly, the stress of that. And my wife, she was trying to make me feel better. She was like trying to say, you know what? She's like, you're just not confident. You're just not certain because of all the stress of everything. She's like, you're going to do fine and stuff. And she was thinking that I was just kind of having a crisis, as I say, of confidence there. And I tried to explain to her, like, no, honey, you don't understand. This is not me not being confident. This is not me just being unsure about the situation. I'm telling you, I am not going to pass this thing. Like, I have done horrible in the practice exams. I haven't been able to review everything. And I've only got 2 days, and then I've got to take this exam. And so I remember telling her again, I really feel like if I just had 2 more weeks, and I feel like I will pass. And so anyway, so we wound up, going to sleep that night, and woke up the next morning, and she normally goes to the grocery store and all that on Saturday mornings. And so she had taken our daughter and was going off to go, to the grocery store and stuff, and go to Publix. And so my plan was, okay, I'm going back to the library, I'm going to study, and then, we'll see, we'll take another practice exam later in the day after I've had a chance to study. Well, I got into the shower, and I was still feeling like a lot of stress. I was still feeling like, okay, I am not confident that it's not just that I'm not confident, but I was just really afraid and fearful that I was not going to do well. So I am a Christian, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. I've been a Christian all my life, pretty much. I was raised Presbyterian. I was baptized as a Baptist, and I always joke that my wife made me a heathen Methodist. No offense to our Methodist brothers and sisters out there, but now we actually are back to being Presbyterians. We go to a Presbyterian church. Anyway, I'm a Christian Protestant is pretty much, and then I'm wherever I happen to be after that. So I fell on my knees, and I started praying to the Lord. And I do like to pray in the shower, just because it's a time of the day where you can focus on just that, just praying, and it's you don't have kids running around, and you don't have you can kind of tune everything out, phone calls, all that stuff, and so it's a good place to pray, is in the shower. And so I got on my knees, and I prayed one of the strongest prayers that I have prayed. Like, I remember just praying to the Lord, Lord, please, you've helped me this far. You've gotten me through. There I had some other challenges which I could do, may do other videos on in the future as well. But I was like, you've gotten me so far, and you've helped me so much through getting this doctorate. Actually, even leading up to getting into the DPT school to begin with was really an amazing, incredible kind of thing. But it's like Lord, you've put me on this path. Here I've gone down it, and I'm at the final point. Like, I've got one more exam, just one more test. And Lord, can you please just help me to do this? Like, help me to get in all the remaining amount of studying that I can do and that I need to do. And please just help me to pass this licensing exam. And that's the other thing about our licensing exams within PT. It doesn't matter how good there's no A's and B's and C's on the passing of the licensing exam. It is pass fail. It's a pass fail test. You either pass it and you go on and become a physical therapist or practice as a physical therapist, or you fail it and you got to try it again. So I was just, Lord, can you get me? I don't need to do stellar on this. I don't need to do super well. Just let me pass. Help me to pass this. So got up from that prayer, and I got out of the shower, got dressed, got in my car, and was driving to where I was going to go and study at the library. So while I was driving, so this is probably not 30 minutes after I prayed that prayer. While I was driving, I all of a sudden hear a ding on my phone, and I looked down, and I'd gotten an email. And so I pulled up to a light and was kind of pulled open my phone just to see what that email was, clicked on the inbox, and saw that I'd gotten an email from the testing center in Atlanta, Georgia, where I was scheduled to go on Monday. So I opened up this email, and I almost have goosebumps even talking about this. It still is just absolutely is amazing what happened. So I clicked on that email, and I opened it up, and there's an email from the testing location where I was scheduled to go in Atlanta, Georgia, saying, we apologize and are sorry to inform you that your scheduled exam for this coming Monday has been canceled. And they said that email said, we will be in contact the and it gave a number, this number, and we'll tell you about further instructions. So I got that email, and I was like, what in the world is this? So I called to a buddy of mine who was studying at another location there, that he was in our DPT program as well. And I was like, dude, I just got this email. Did you get an email canceling your exam for Monday? He was taking, I think his exam was supposed to be in maybe Tennessee or something. I don't know. It's all over the country where they were given these. And he was like, he looked at his email. Was like, no, I haven't gotten that at all. And then, he was like, well, dude, you better, they only offer this 5 times a year, and, you're going to be in trouble. And stuff. You better, figure out what's what with that. And so I was like, wait a minute, let me, and I called around to another couple of buddies, and they also, none of them had gotten this, and wound up hearing, I did hear that one of my other classmates, she actually had also gotten a similar email. Which I didn't know about, was actually scheduled to take this exam also at my same testing location in Atlanta, Georgia. So I wound up giving her a call, and said, and she was like, yeah, I did get that. And she was like, hey, I've studied for this thing. There is no way that I'm not taking this on Monday. She's like, I'm going to try to find, I'm going to call around and try to see if I can get a hold of someone within this testing location to work this out. So I wound up calling I did call the number that was there, and it actually went into a voicemail. I could not get anybody on the phone. I tried calling also I forgot who, there was another organization that was involved, which I can't remember the name of, and I tried to reach someone there. Because again, this was on a Saturday morning. This was like about 10:30 or so on a Saturday morning of that weekend. And so I was like, okay, this is strange. I've gotten this email that's canceling my testing location, and but all the while, I will say, in the back of my mind, I knew I had just prayed that prayer about 30 minutes before, or a little bit earlier before in that morning. I also knew that I had the night before not had this known certainty that there's no way I'm passing this exam right now. So in the back of my mind, I'm kind of going, is this the Lord answering a prayer? But I was kind of like, there's this uncertainty, like what in the world is going on? What has happened? And also we need to add one other bit of stress to the whole situation. So this new position that I had accepted the offer for, that's the management position. So for that position, I had asked, I said, well, what if I didn't pass this exam in January, or what if I delayed? I had actually gone the week of that earlier in that previous week of that final week of studying for the exam. I had actually gone back to, or contacted them again and said, what if I actually delayed my taking the exam from January to April? So could I delay that so that way I would get a little bit more time and stuff? And was told, if you do that, we'll have to rescind our offer of the position and give that to someone else for this management position. So that was one other thing, that was another stressor that was in the whole situation, was that not only did we need the money, but the position would be gone that I was wanting, and I would now actually have no job. And I had already resigned from the previous position that I was actually offered. That was the staff PT. If I didn't pass this exam, I would also not have this job going forward. So I had to take it. I could not wait until April, when it was the end of April, when it was being offered for that second time. So come back to that Saturday, and I'd gotten this email, and I was calling around, and had found one of my classmates, as I said, and that had gotten this email. Well, she wound up calling me back and said that she had called all over, but she finally got a hold of somebody at the testing location, and they changed her location, and she wound up giving me the number that she used, and that she had used to change her testing location. And she said, hey, you can call this, and they will change the location for you. So, okay. So in my mind at the time, I was like, well, I know I prayed this prayer. Could the Lord be answering a prayer here? Or do I, or should I push this? Is this like a true problem? Is this not the Lord working, but this is Satan working, and I'm gonna have a problem because this thing is being canceled. Now, and the one side of me though was like, well, I've done what the instructions said. The instructions actually had said to call this number. The number was, you could call that, and it wasn't, I had called it and they were closed. It said they were closed on, the weekend, and, and stuff. Well, so I'd done, in my mind, I was like, well, I've done everything that the email technically said. So this being able to change my location, as my classmate did, that was kind of going outside of the system, so to speak, that she did, that was what she had done to get her site changed. So I was like, you know what? I'm not doing anything wrong by not changing my location. I'm just following what this email directed. So I kind of set the situation up to my wife, and she was like, because another thing that even my buddies were saying was like, hey, this is only offered 5 times a year. So if they canceled your site and you're not able to take it, you're not able to move this, so it's going to be April again. And again, then you're going to lose your job, and so, or my management job that I had accepted. So I talked to my wife about all this and set the situation up. And she wound up asking me, what are you going to do? And I said, because I told her about, I'd had this prayer, but you kind of don't know, you don't know when you're in the middle of this, or I didn't know at the time. So I told her, I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take a practice exam. If I pass this practice exam, then I'll call the number that my classmate had given me, and I'll use that to then change my site and go and take it on Monday. So I took that practice exam. I failed the heck out of that thing. I did horrible on that practice exam. And so I decided, you know what? I am letting this ride. I was like, I know that I was in severe amount of distress. I know that I had fervently prayed to the Lord, and I know that this potential solution has appeared. I'm going to trust the Lord, and I'm going to think, and I'm going to trust that He answered this prayer in one of the most astounding, miraculous ways that I've ever thought could happen. So, and I'm just going to let it ride, and we're just going to see what happens. And so I'm going to do like this email said. So I called them already. I'll wait again, and I'll call them on Monday when they're open, and then we'll see what they say. And I'm just going to not go to Atlanta. I'm going to trust that they said, hey, this is canceled. You're not taking it. So come to Monday morning. My friends are all actually taking their exams in that moment. And at their different site locations. My site has been canceled. For whatever reason, they said that just was a technical issue, and that site had been canceled. So I call that number that I tried on Saturday and couldn't get anybody because it wound up saying their offices were closed. I called them and did get someone on the line, and it's amazing to even talk about this. I got the person on the line and that worked for that office. Told them, hey, look, I was supposed to be taking this exam today, but I had in Atlanta, Georgia, but I'd gotten this email that said that my testing site had some sort of issue and that my exam was canceled for that day. And that woman said, we are terribly sorry. That this is rare that this happens. It doesn't happen very often, but occasionally it does, where the testing site will have an issue that we wound up having. We have to cancel the testing day, and we have to wind up rescheduling for those people who are involved. So we apologize that this happened to you. When would you like to take it? How about 2 weeks from now? It still floors me. It still it almost gives me chills thinking about it. That here was the situation where I was not going to pass that exam. I needed 2 more weeks. I knew that's what I did. I knew it, and it's amazing. The Lord answered that prayer. The Lord agreed with me. He said, yeah, you're not going to pass. I've put you on this path. You have messed up by not focusing the last 2 months like you should have been on getting yourself prepared for this exam. But I'm going to help you out. I'm going to answer your prayer, and I'm going to give you 2 more weeks. And I took those 2 more weeks. I studied, and I passed. It was amazing. Absolutely miraculous. Absolutely amazing. For those people who are, not believers or, what have you, they'll say, well, this was just a coincidence. That was no coincidence. You cannot tell me that was a coincidence. It wasn't. I was at one of the most distressing, fearful moments of my life. I turned to the Lord, fervently prayed, and was praying, let's say, and on my knees in the shower that morning, really as hard as I could pray, and was turning to the Lord because I knew I was in trouble and I needed His help. And He doesn't, I think the Lord probably always is trying to answer a prayer for you. It just, sometimes it might be indirect. Sometimes it may take long. He may need actions to happen. You don't always have it in this such a direct, immediate response. But I'm telling you, within 30 minutes, I had gotten that email that my testing site was canceled. I called them on that Monday morning. I was needing 2 weeks, and I got 2 more weeks, and I passed. And I've now been a physical therapist for 13 years. So that's how I passed my licensing exam. If it wasn't for the Lord Jesus Christ, there is no chance that I would be practicing as a physical therapist right now. Who knows what I would have gotten myself into. But 13 years on now, I can look back and I can tell you without a doubt, in that moment, the Lord answered my prayer. The Lord took pity on me, or whatever, and my own failures, and it was my own fault that I wasn't prepared for that exam, because I was focused on all sorts of other things other than just passing that exam, and I had frittered time away. I was still studying, but I was halfway doing it, and the Lord answered a prayer, and that directly turned into my career that I'm doing now. So I wanted to share that. I don't know if that will help anyone for any inspiration. I don't know if that will help anyone in their own studying. Do not waste time when you're studying before your license exam. Stay focused on what you're trying to do is the lesson of that. Don't be like me. Prepare yourself and don't get focused. Don't let other things kind of step in, because you can get yourself into a fix. But also, so I hope that's probably one lesson. I think the other lesson is, if you are not a follower of Jesus Christ, why don't you try turning to Him? Why don't you try asking Him into your life? Why don't you try following Him and seeing what He can do and what He would do for you, because He works in mysterious ways, and it's amazing. It's amazing. It's miraculous. And that's one point that I can point to in my life. There are several others, actually, that I'm probably going to do videos on as well, just to record them, and just to, again, for anyone that might get some inspiration from it, and maybe it would help to strengthen their faith or whatever. But probably the most important lesson from this would be, ask the Lord for help when you need it, and see what He does. I think He is always going to be trying to help you. Some ways may be indirect, but some ways, if you're lucky and not deserving of it, but in the right situation where the Lord will act directly for you and to help you, He will. And that's what He did for me. That's how I know that He will. So I hope that you may turn to Him and ask the same of Him and see what He does for you. All right, thank you all for listening to this video, and we'll catch you later. Have a good one.